We're going to start in a couple minutes, so I would ask everybody to make sure your cell phones are off. So please turn those off, and we'll be starting in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Give your comment cards over to the right, if you have any. All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I am Richard Costigan. I am the chair of the Board of Trustees for the museum. It is an honor for us to have all of you all here today, including Speaker Pelosi. So welcome to our museum. Thank you for being here. It is my honor to introduce a real champion and hero for Sacramento. I'm going to be introducing Congresswoman Doris Matsui, who has served as Sacramento's voice in Congress since 2005. As a senior member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, she has been fighting to stabilize and improve health care for all, build a clean energy economy, and innovate and prepare our economy for the future. She's been a strong advocate for strengthening Sacramento's flood protection and supporting the growth of this region so it continues to be a vibrant place for families to live, work, and play. Congressman Matsui continues to be a strong advocate of cultural and art projects, not only in Sacramento and the region. And I do want to thank you for your work in bringing a Major League Soccer team to Sacramento. She currently serves as a member of the Board of Regents of the Smithsonian, where she is also on the Council of the National Museum of African American History and Culture and the Council of the National Museum of American History. Please give our Congresswoman a warm Sacramento welcome.
Wow. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be home here and in my own district. It's a wonderful place to be, and I welcome all of you. I'm sure most of you are my constituents anyway, so it's good to be here. I want to say it's fabulous to be here, and thank you very much, Richard, for mentioning the Smithsonian, because we have our own Women's History Initiative throughout all the Smithsonians. We have 19 museums and 9 research centers. And one of our projects is going to be, and in fact, all this whole year, is actually the Women's Suffragette and the 19th Amendment, which will take place all this year and next year until the ratification. So we are really thrilled to be here. I am really thrilled to be here at home. But I'd like to say that today in particular, we're going to be having some interesting conversations, and I think you're going to find it very interesting. And I'm happy to join in a discussion with 2 remarkable women here. And I have to say remarkable because that's what they are. You know, I have worked with Nancy Pelosi, who's been my friend for many, many, many years. And she's a strong leader, and obviously she's Speaker of the House, too, which is probably... And I must say, a leader at the most consequential times in our history. Now, I'll also say we're very lucky in this state to have a first partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, who has been absolutely remarkable in her advocacy of women and girls, in a sense of all the documentary films she has made. And the fact is that she's always on the prowl, in essence, to make sure that women are represented and actually in ways that we have to be thinking creatively about, too. So I really thank her very much also. And as today we're reflecting on the passage of the 19th Amendment, when you think about the fact, yeah, it was only 100 years ago. I mean, it took a long time when you think about it. It took the work of all the suffragettes, in essence, of who we're honoring today until this whole year of the ratification. They worked so hard, in essence, that we can't let them down, in essence, because you know how progress is. You can make progress, but you can never, ever let go at all and understand that you can take things for granted. This is a historic moment in our nation's history. And I don't need to tell you how difficult it can be at times, especially in trust in our institutions, trust in the right to vote. Many times when you look to see what's happening with our environment and clean air and clean water, we all need to stand up, in essence. And that's why I really say that Nancy Pelosi leads in this most consequential time. In essence, because we stood up the last time and really voted, especially women, in that last election. We took over the House of Representatives and made Nancy Pelosi Speaker of the House. And believe me, I would rather have Nancy Pelosi negotiate on my behalf than anyone else. Now, even despite the fact all the things we're doing, we still pass consequential legislation and stand up for our values. So as we listen to today's conversation, think about the history of the suffragettes, 19th Amendment, and the work that it took to get us there. But in essence, I think, owe them to and honor them by really moving forward and understanding that what we do today will impact our children and our grandchildren. So as you listen carefully, because I'm looking to all of you here to inspire us, to make sure the future is brighter than it has ever been. So I would just say that it is so wonderful to be here. And also, too, there are men in this audience, too. We work with some wonderful men. And I must say that I want to hand the stage over to a truly remarkable man. And he, in essence, is so dedicated to ensuring that our women have the power and the access to ensure that our state is continuing to be number one. That is our governor, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you. All right, I know I'm the only person standing between you and what you came here to see, so I'm going to be as brief as possible. My wife and I talk a lot about leadership, and I see a number of members of my staff here, and they hear me talk often about the fact leadership can be found anywhere. You don't have to be something to do something. And I think that's the principle that brought us to this moment 100 years ago. It was folks in position not of formal authority. It was people like Stanton and Mott. It was folks like Alice Paul, people that had something perhaps even more formidable, and that was moral authority that led this movement. It was the dialectic of Susan B. Anthony and those in positions of formal authority that ultimately advanced the cause that unites us here today. And that's an important lesson. It's an important principle and point that we need to amplify more and more. We feel like we are vulnerable at this time in life, so fearful, so anxious about the world we're living in. And of course, we count on the folks in the white horse to come save the day. And then again, it's our own behavior. Society becomes how we behave. Folks in 1848 decided to advance this cause. And they put their flag down. They advanced this cause formally by demanding more and expecting more. And ultimately, you had Representative Rankin, the first woman in the history of our House to serve in that position, that took that baton and advanced that cause. And then it was a president by the name of Wilson who said, you know what? Time is right. But those conditions, those seeds were planted years and years before, waiting for those conditions to ultimately come along. And so that's the spirit of our times. And that's the spirit that defines this moment as we celebrate a century of progress, recognizing that good enough never is. And there's enormous work in front of us. So it's in that spirit that I am proud and pleased to introduce two people to you that don't need an introduction because you know them. So let me just ask the first partner of the state of California to come on up, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the one and only Nancy Pelosi.
Good afternoon. It's so great to be here with all of you and to be sitting beside you, Speaker Pelosi. I want to thank the California Museum for their incredible partnership. This marks really the beginning of a series of suffrage events that will continue to unroll over the course of the next year as we celebrate California women past, present, and future. So stay tuned and keep supporting the California Museum, an incredible partner of ours. And I just want to say, before we begin, Speaker Pelosi, that it's so special to be here with you because you nominated me and my dear, where's Nicola? Nicola Miner, my other co-commissioner on the National Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission. And so I have this incredible pleasure to serve on the commission because of you alongside Nicola, and we are very loud and proud of California, and doing our best to represent you and all of you in this room. So thank you again for that opportunity and for being here, Nicola, as well. It really has been a privilege to serve on the commission, to learn more about our nation's history, and to help plan our national celebrations. As you all hopefully know, California gave California women the right to vote in 1911. But then we didn't ratify as a nation, obviously, until 1920, and California ratified independently on November 1st of 1919. So hence, that's why it's so special to be here today with all of you, and bravo, California, for being one of the first. So, Speaker Pelosi, in so many ways, you represent the wildest dreams of the suffragists 100 years ago. What do you make of this moment? 100 years of women having access to political power. You're the highest ranking woman in elected office in the United States of America.
Sad to say.
Serving with over 100 women beside you. What does this mean to you? And do you have a microphone? Okay, good.
Thank you for reminding me. And thank you for the invitation to be here, first partner. You're so wonderful. We're so proud of you and of Governor Newsom as well. It's just, as mayor of our city, he was in the lead on climate issues, any issue you can name, housing, healthcare for all, every subject he was in the lead. And now as the governor of our state, and again, husband to the first partner who is taking the lead on so many issues. Thank you, Governor Newsom. I'm here with my husband, Paul, who's known Gavin. We've known him since he was born. And it's an honor to be here with my colleague, Congresswoman Doris Matsui. Thank all of you for sending her to the Congress of the United States. The list of her leadership items in which she takes the lead, whether it's seniors, children, the environment, you name it, she's right there. And the committee she serves on, Energy and Commerce, they say if the sun shines on it or if water touches it or whatever, it is the jurisdiction of her committee. So she claims it all and takes the lead on so much of it. Thank you, Doris, for your kind words of welcome, more importantly, for your great leadership. So here we are. Imagine that California was almost a year, 10 months, before the rest of the country in the ratification. Before Tennessee was the last state, and then the certification of it all. How important was that? How courageous were those women? As Governor referenced, going to 1848, how courageous were they? I'll just tell you this little story that captured when you say, what does this mean? We are all standing on each other's shoulders. We on theirs, others on mine, and well, eventually yours, but you're so young, but I'm just saying. But here's the thing. The first meeting that I went to in the White House as the leader of the Democrats in the Congress, I wasn't concerned about it. I'd been to many meetings at the White House as an appropriator, as an intelligence person and the rest, until I got to the room. And when I went into the room, I realized that this was unlike any meeting that I had ever been to in the White House. In fact, it was unlike any meeting that any woman had ever been into the White House. Because here it was, the leadership, Democratic, Republican, House and Senate, President of the United States, a very small table of that leadership. Now, women have been at the cabinet, but that's derivative of the president's power. It's important, but I'm going in there derived from the power given to me by the Democrats in the Congress of the United States, separate branch of government. And again, So I go in and I sit down, and President Bush was president at the time, very gracious, lovely, welcoming, complimentary, blah, blah, blah. But as he was speaking, the reason I said blah, blah, because it started to fade for me, because as he was speaking, Jennifer, I was squeezed into my chair. I couldn't understand why. It never happened to me before, never happened since. But all of a sudden, Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Alice Paul, Sojourner Truth, Lucretia Mott, did I say? Anyway, the list goes on. They were all sitting on that chair with me. And I could hear them say, "At last, we have a seat at the table." And then they were gone. My first thought was, we want more. But also the important reality that we are standing on the shoulders of giants, the courage of those women to leave home, to starve, to be starved, to be just ignored by their families, criticized. Imagine the courage it took for them to do that. Makes what we do look easy, very much easy compared to that. But we have to be worthy to stand on their shoulders and understand that others will be standing on ours. So we were blessed in our country, and it took a long time for it to happen, but it did happen. And now, to honor their work, women must vote, because when women vote, women win, and when women win, America succeeds. We always say, when women succeed, America succeeds. That goes for the whole world.
So a lot has rightfully been said about the mistakes and missteps of the suffrage movement, particularly with respect to leaving out women of color. How can we learn, and what can we learn from those mistakes?
Well, let's just say that Sojourner Truth was a very important part of women and others and African Americans having the right to vote. So, but that was an exception, and we can always learn. Any movement has its beginnings, its divisions, its lack of recognition of what all the possibilities could be. So while we want to be, shall we say, firm in our judgments about how we would have done things differently, we really have to recognize from this perspective that women of color played a very important role in women having the right to vote, and including men of color as well. Frederick Douglass, for one, was right there at the conference when they said, men and women are created equal. So it is, again, I hope that and I know that you and Nicola, and thank you, Nicola, for being willing to serve, are making that point at the commission, that the history will reflect the true contribution of women of color to the movement.
So I would love to hear a little bit about the dynamics of the 116th Congress. Okay. What a difference. Well, let's start here. What a difference it's made to have the most women serving ever, that this is the most diverse Congress ever.
Well, let me just say that one of the most transformative moments in our country's history, modern history, was the Women's March the day after the inauguration. That made a tremendous difference, Madam First Partner, because it was transformative. It wasn't politically organized. It was organic. It was spontaneous. People just came forward around their own passions or their own priorities, whether it was education or climate change or issues that relate to fairness in our economy, fairness in our justice system, issues that relate to gun safety, immigration, you name the subject. everybody was in there with their own priorities, but of shared values, So it wasn't it wasn't about politics or anything. It was about ideals and values. The next year was more about politics because it was more like, now the election's coming, and for these reasons we have to win. But after the first march, it was clear. Again, women marched, women ran, women voted, women won. And it made a tremendous difference in our country. So I'm very honored to be the woman Speaker of the House at a time when we will observe the 100th anniversary of women having the right to vote, for the first time having 100 women in the House of Representatives, 106 women. 91 of them are Democrats. We hope the other side. We made a decision. When I went to Congress over 30 years ago, there were 11 Republicans and 12 Democrats, one of them being Barbara Boxer from here, of California. And we decided, 23 out of 435? So on our side of it, we made a decision that every election we would elect more women and reach out and again, try to give confidence to people that they could do this, that it was important for them to do it, and that nothing was more wholesome to our electoral system or our governance of our country than the increased participation of women. Participation and leadership of women. So we have 96, and we want more still. But that's quite remarkable. And as you mentioned, it is part of the most diverse Congress in history. Our caucus, the House Democratic Caucus, over 60% women, people of color, LGBTQ. This is a remarkable phenomenon. When you're presiding and you look to the one side and you look to the other side, it's America. But I say to our members, because we have to win. We say to our members, our diversity is our strength. Our unity is our power. And that is what some people fear most. Some people. So it's fabulous. And the women, let me just say this. You're all too young, read it in history books. But when the Watergate babies came to Congress, George Miller of California was one of them. That was right after Watergate, right? And they had a big transformative class, as we do now, Mr. President, big transformative class. And in that year, not one of them had chaired a subcommittee. Not one of them had a gavel. In this class, lifting up our freshmen, 18 freshmen are chairs of subcommittees in the Congress. 10 women, 8 men have gavels in the Congress. So they're presiding. They're presiding. They not only have a seat at the table, they're at the head of the table. And when they go to the floor with their legislation, they manage it all. It's quite remarkable. We're very proud of our women.
That's so great. That sounds like balance to me, 10 to 8. So
we're making up for lost time.
Yeah. It's good. One of the things that most stands out to me is how deliberate, thoughtful, calm, and focused you are when it seems like everyone else is swirling. You are the calm in the eye of the storm. How do you prepare mentally for this role? What characteristics, and I should ask your husband this, stand out as your best personal assets when you're shepherding the chaos? From the impeachment process to, Twitter to many other factors.
Well, let me, since you said that word, I'll just glance just a little bit on it. Nobody comes to Congress to impeach a president of the United States. Nobody. That's just not what it's about. We're there to talk about how we can make the future better, confident in our own ideas, humble enough to listen to others. I quote you all the time, love is letting other versions exist, and just listening to other people and respecting other views. However, if faced with a situation that we are faced with, we go into that. But without going into that, unless you ask, but I'm not going there unless you do, this is a very serious time for our country. We are prayerful, we are thoughtful, we are solemn. We owe that to our founders. Think of what they did. They declared independence. They fought a war and won it. They wrote the founding documents. Thank God they made them amendable so that we can expand freedom over time. They said at the time, Thomas Paine said at the time of the dark days of the revolution, the times have found us. The times have found us to do what they did. Well, we believe that the times have found us now, not to place ourselves in a category of greatness of our founders, that's for sure, but in terms of the urgency to protect what they declared and what they wrote and what is the genius of the Constitution. A republic, remember, Benjamin Franklin came out of Constitution Hall, Independence Hall. They said, Dr. Franklin, what do we have? A monarchy or a republic? He said, a republic, if we can keep it. And we do believe that it is the times have found us to keep the republic. 3 co-equal branches of government, separation of powers, a check and balance on each other. That is at risk right now. So, in terms of calmness, the founders, times have found us a republic if we can keep it. One other thing, guidance they gave us, they said, among other things, they said, e pluribus unum, from many one. They couldn't imagine how many we'd be or how different we'd be from each other, but they knew that we had to strive for oneness. So whatever our debate or our fight or our struggle was, to remember we are one country, indivisible, under God. So it is the motivation we have to honor the vision of our founders, the sacrifice they made, the sacrifice our men and women make to preserve our freedom and the aspirations of our children, which is our responsibility as we go forward. So part of that has to be a calmness, a prayerfulness, an obligation to our founders to be one.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Speaker, there was that recent viral picture of you standing tall against our president while all of...
I thought we were here to talk about Susan B. Anthony.
We are. While all of these men sort of cower in the background, how does it feel to be the only woman in that room in particular, or do you even notice that you're the only woman in the room? And I know you're in tons of rooms, but I'm speaking to a recent image that I know you know.
In the room where it happens, right? Before I answer that question, if I just may preface it with this, and it's a tribute to you. And that is the picture. The picture, then all of a sudden people want to know what happened. I do believe, getting back to what I said before about one and not dividing, but trying to unite the country however we solve our problems. I do believe that as we go forward, the healing that we need, the repair we have to do to our country will be, the arts will play a very important role in that. President Radigan, thank you so much for what you have done. The president of the museum. This is, and when you did your films, your documentaries, and how you engage people in an idea through the arts, people understand it better. It's just the way it is. So whether it's a picture or a documentary, a song, it is something that we enjoy together, put aside our differences, laugh, cry, be inspired, but just see it in a different way than just hearing about it. So thank you for your presenting your ideas, not only through words, but through visual and optic and through the arts, because that is really what I do think is going to be the salvation of our country. Thank you for that. Thank you. So we're having this meeting, and they took the picture. We don't bring, you can't even bring a watch, a smartwatch, into one of those rooms, which was so strange because some members of Congress decided they were going in with hackable technology where our national security was being discussed. So they took the picture, and then they put it out. Thank you very much. So we said, okay, we'll share it too. So, yeah, no, it was a sad situation, but it's all part, I don't know if you want me to go into what happened in the room or what I was saying. Mr. President, it's your museum. I thought we were here to talk history, and now they want to talk 2 weeks ago or something. It's up to you, okay? Governor, you think, okay? More importantly, Madam First Partner, you okay with this? Okay, so here, this is... I was raised in a very patriotic family, devoutly Catholic, deeply patriotic, proud of our Italian-American heritage, and in our case, staunchly democratic. But the first three, especially the first two about deeply patriotic and devoutly Catholic, sort of go together for me. It's about our country and what we believe in and what we have faith in. So when you go to Congress and you take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, that's a serious matter. And that's what Doris Matsui has done in Congress. That's what the governor has done as governor of the state. That's what so many of our elected officials all do, and anybody on a commission. We all take the oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. 3 co-equal branches of government, a republic if we can keep it. So we had just that day, well, we go to the meeting, the president invites us to the meeting. He comes into the room and he says, I don't know whose meeting this is. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know who invited anybody to this meeting. And I'm thinking, you think we would be here if you... So that's how he started. It was strange. It was strange. So I took the liberty of saying, Mr. President, as Speaker of the House, I want you to know that we just left the Congress and we voted 354 to 60 to oppose your policy in terms of Syria and Turkey. And what that means is that 2/3 of the Republicans voted against your policy. That didn't go over well with him. And what it does is it says that we must constrain have the Turks not just run roughshod over the Kurds, our partners in fighting ISIS, but also to have humanitarian assistance for the ISIS families who are being bombed now by the Turks. And most importantly, what is your plan to fight ISIS now that you have proven us an untrustworthy ally of the Kurds? That's what the resolution says. To which then, the voice of the future, is that a beautiful sound? Is there anything more beautiful than that? Oh my gosh. Thank you for honoring us with our purpose, the future. The future, it really is. That's why we're here. So then Chuck Schumer, who's as you know, the Democratic leader of the Senate, his part, I told him about the resolution, his part was to say, as New Yorkers, we understand when terrorists hit our country and we have to fight that overseas so it doesn't come. And the president is saying things like, well, those terrorists, they're like 7,000 miles away. Well, they were on 9/11 too until they got here. But in any event, Chuck then goes and says, well, even even Secretary Mattis opposed what you did. Mattis is the most overrated general and Secretary of Defense. He's overrated. I mean, this is the President of the United States talking about a general, respected general, and of course the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs is sitting there, poor baby. So anyway, so he's going on against Mattis, and we're like, what? He said Mattis, he was going to take 2 years to overcome ISIS. I took care of him myself in 1 month. So we thought there was not too much more reason to stay in the room on that proclamation. So we started to leave. And that's when I stood up to leave, because really, you know, he didn't know why we were there. He didn't know who invited us, and now he's going after Mattis and all. So I said, well, Mr. President, let me just say this. For you, all roads lead to Putin or Russia. What you did in Syria and with Syria and Turkey gave the Russians what they have wanted, a stronger foothold in the Middle East, and you just gave it to them. And what you did in the Ukraine by threatening to grant or withhold military assistance that was voted by the Congress of the United States in a bipartisan way is just what Russia wanted. They've killed 11,000 people already in eastern Ukraine. That was to the benefit of Russia. And when you question our commitment to NATO, Article 5 of NATO, when you question that, that was to the advantage of Putin. So all roads lead to Putin. He didn't like that at all. Then he started calling me like a third grade politician or something like that. So I was like, third grade? Do you mean third rate? What do you mean? What do you mean? What is it? Every knock from you is a boost. I want to make sure it's solidly understood. And believe me, it breaks my heart to have to tell you that story. Because here we are, the greatest country that ever existed in the history of the world, a model of democracy to the world. And what are we doing now? We have to defend our democracy. That's the fight we have. For the people, we must defend our democracy because it is at stake. Sad to say. When the president first came in office, I said to Mr. President, I will never ask you to do anything that isn't in your interest, that I do not believe is in your interest and the interest of our country. I respect our differences, and I see how we can work together. I will treat you the way I would treat President Barack Obama of my own party, because you are the President of the United States. There wasn't too much reception at the other side of that. And so it's really sad. It's a really very sad thing, because I worked very closely with President Bush. We accomplished a lot of great things together, and though I vehemently opposed the war in Iraq, what could be worse than that? But nonetheless, we found our common ground to do good things for the American people. So this is not the way it usually or naturally or patriotically or democratically would be. It's a very strange situation. But all roads do lead to Putin.
Thank you for that. So we've had conversations in the past about upcoming generations of young men in this country who are affirming really toxic and damaging masculinities that they've learned or that have been unleashed under this presidency. What can be done to challenge and overcome that narrative?
Well, let me just say that one of the most wonderful things that happened to me when I became elected to the leadership of the Congress were the letters that I had received, not letters, communications I had received from fathers of daughters saying, thank you, now you've broken the marble ceiling, and now my daughter has the sky's the limit, and this or that. And that was, I think, a big change in the confidence that dads and the priority they would give to girls reaching their greatest expectations or promise. And in terms of the boys, It's about how people are raised. It's just the way it is. It's how people are raised. And I was encouraged until the last 3 years and 2 days. 4 days is it? We're counting down. Not one more year to go. But was that to be interpreted as political? I'm really sorry, I slipped. But here's the thing on this very serious subject. How boys are raised, and up until recently, men and young men were taking more responsibility for issues like domestic violence and sexual harassment and the rest. I mean, it's one thing to talk about young women and what their rights are, or women and how they could defend themselves or how they can make clear their intentions and the rest. But it was wonderful to see some others men in the community who were coming forward to take the lead in trying to be models to boys and to empower them to be less, shall we say, what the stereotype might have expected of them many, many years ago. So there is no question, and somebody told me yesterday that even in the evangelical community, there is an unease among some of the people. They're so big for the president, for reasons I won't go into here, but unless you ask. But they don't like their children imitating him, their boys imitating him, or talking back in that way, or using that kind of language. Or in many cases, it almost looks like bullying. And so it is something that we do have to address, and it was something we're on a good path. We're on a good path. This is the strangest thing I've ever seen in terms of the current occupant of the White House, in terms of that kind of behavior. I don't think I see too much of that among my Republican colleagues in the Congress. They do agree with him on denial of climate change, no gun violence prevention, many other issues where I don't agree with them on the policy. But personally, I don't see that kind of, I'm not aware of that kind of behavior. So it's about an individual. It's about an individual. But you know what? America's a great country. Our culture is one of community. And the word community has the word unity in it. And we just have to be, as I said before, prayerful and understanding our responsibilities, as I learned in Little Italy in Baltimore, Maryland, as a Catholic, patriotic American, that we have responsibilities to each other. But we cannot let this situation degenerate further, because it's just really wrong. It's wrong for the boys, it's wrong for the girls, it's wrong for our society. So we just have to have more people speaking out about it too. We really do. Not the usual suspects, but some other folks.
So I'm going to combine two questions into one, because I'm desperate to get your answer on these, and then we're opening it up to audience questions. But I had the incredible fortune to interview you years ago for misrepresentation, and I'm so grateful for that. And we spoke about how the media punishes powerful women, women aspiring towards leadership, strong women, older women, opinionated women, intelligent women. Do you think enough has changed since then with respect to sexism and gender bias in the media? Is media bias still a hurdle for women in leadership? And last combined question, what is your hope for future generations, and where can we expect to be in the next 100 years?
Okay, all right. So,
all in one, easy, easy breezy.
So I'll just take it to another level. If I ruled the world, in terms of future generations and the present, the education of girls and women throughout the world. Throughout the world. It is the most transformative action that we can take as a culture, as a society, as a world. And it makes such a difference in the lives of the families, but also in the sense of community, and even the economies of the countries that we're talking about, including our own. So in terms of the first part of the question, in terms of women and the press and this or that, it cuts both ways. I have to say, as a woman, I get sad when people say the highest ranking woman, because I was so sure we would have a woman president, so it kind of breaks my heart that I have that title. But maybe not for long, who knows, we'll see. And, but the fact is that some people are just threatened by the emergence of women and minorities and, and LGBTQ, the difference, it just threatens them in some way. But I say this to the women. The best advice I ever got when I was running for office, Madam First Partner, was be yourself. That is the authentic you. You might admire other people in politics or government or whatever. That's nice. Be you. They can be a mentor. You could copy something about what you like on how they act or something, but be authentically you. Be loyally you. And that is the most connection to other people because they have shared your experiences, many people. So for the women, I say this. Know your why you're running. What's your vision? Why? You've heard me say this before. What do you care about? Is it a climate change? Is it education? Is it fairness in our economy? Is it what is it? In any subject, women's right to choose. Know your subject. Doesn't mean you have to know everything about it or that you have to know every subject, but that you have to demonstrate your command, your vision, your command, and that means your judgment as well, your strategic thinking, how you're going to get things done. And how you get things done is connecting with other people so they join you or you join them or you join together in what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's public health, so clean air, clean water for our babies, whatever the issue happens to be. It's such an exciting thing to see women just blossom. And let me tell you, it's absolutely essential because, again, nothing is more wholesome for our system, whether it's political, whether it's academic, whether it's cultural, whether it's corporate, whether it's military, whatever it is, nothing is more wholesome than the increased participation of women. So know your power, know who you are, take inventory. Everything you have done is a plus. Some people say, I'm a housewife. A plus for that. I went from kitchen to Congress, housewife to House Speaker, so so I give a big plus. I give a big plus to managing, right, Madam First Partner? I mean, your quartermaster, your logistics, your diplomat, interpersonal relations, your time manager. Really, moms, come on, give yourself a gold star, moms. Get out there. But don't let anybody just tell you there's some secret sauce that some guys wear because they got a suit and tie. There ain't no secret sauce. Everybody has their own secret sauce. No offense, gentlemen. It's no offense. It's just that it's important to have diversity at the table. That's just the way it is. It's nothing better, one better than the other. It's just important to have the important difference at the table. So have your confidence. Don't let anybody diminish that. You are you, authentically you, and nobody can take that away from you. And that makes you different. That makes your contribution something so special. So I'm excited when I see women, whether they're young or young into the arena. Now let me just say this. You get in the arena, this is not for the faint of heart. And my whole why, my why is that 1 in 5 children in America lives in poverty, goes to sleep hungry at night, can't stand that. Paul and I have 5 children, well, now we have 9 grandchildren, but the very idea that these children would be suffering economically in every way, not having enough food, insecurity in terms of food and housing and the rest of that. I thank you, Governor, as Governor and Mayor, for addressing all of those issues. that just bothered me so, and that's what drew me into the arena. It's not for the faint of heart. So I always say this, you got to be ready to take a punch, and you got to be ready to throw a punch for the children. Think of it. The children, they ask me, what are the 3 most important issues facing the Congress? I always say the same thing. Our children, our children, our children. Their health, their education, the economic security of their families, including pension security for their older grandparents, whatever. A clean, safe environment in which they can thrive, including gun violence protection, as well as a world at peace in which they can reach their fulfillment. All politics, all elections are about the future, about the children.
Is there one assumption that men made historically that they're still making, or men in positions of power and influence, that they're making about women, an assumption men are making about women or have made historically about women, that you wish you could stop? And what would it be?
Well, I don't worry too much about that. I just think that's their problem. Now, I really say that to my colleagues and candidates. You know, don't worry about what they're thinking. Worry about your why and why you are out there and what you know about and how you connect with people. And if they're left behind, you're not, I mean, really, we're going to spend a whole lot of time changing the behavior of people who don't want their behavior changed, or just show talent. You know, just show talent and kindness. Now, I do believe that America's heart is full of love. And this is not to get in there and be competitive or beat somebody or anything like that. It's about America's heart being full of love, and how do we ignore some... My brother just passed away, my brother Tommy. He was my idol. I mean, I just loved him so much. And he was the mayor of Baltimore when he was very young, in his 30s, and he was always saying things like, if somebody says something about you that's bad, don't even pay attention to that. They have to say that because of their own shortcomings. It's not about you, it's about them. And my father, who was mayor also, he used to say, he who throweth mud loseth ground. So don't, so, you know, just don't worry about what their deal is, because you know what? The times they are a-changing, and it's insecure for some people to see that happening, but it's no use criticizing them for what they are, their own insecurities. It's really more about just lovingly loving our country, loving our people. Our people are so wonderful, and just to go forward with your own why, what, how, and authenticity. You know, it's a pretty exciting thing. I mean, really, for women now in politics and the rest, and government, but everything, in business, in the military, in the arts, in every category, because so many more women are emerging in prominence than before, and it makes a very positive difference. So hopefully we'll even have more in the next election as far as politics are concerned. That's the plan.
Do you believe that we'll achieve parity in this country in terms of women's representation and leadership in your lifetime? And if so, what will we see? What will be the impact of more women and more communities of color and more balance, more harmony in leadership?
Well, let me just say, it will be in your lifetime, A. And B, we were talking the other day, Paul and I, saying, just imagine in the not too distant future, people will saying, what can we do to get more men elected to Congress?
That's great.
Because women are on a roll, I mean, really. And for women to see other women who have a shared experience with a seat at the table, at the head of the table, women seeing women, moms, or even not moms, but family members, caregivers to others, having a responsibility to make the policy, to make the difference in people's lives. And don't confine any of those issues to what you would consider to have traditionally been called women's issues. I'm talking about the national security of our country, the strength of our economy. I'm talking about every single issue where women are weighing in a very significant way.
I am so appreciative to you for your candor and your friendship and your incredible support. We in California owe you so much for your strength and your courage and your intelligence and your leadership. And I know that these women are applauding you.
How about these
look
women?
at them.
How about them?
And celebrating you. And sending you strength and lifting you up.
I have to tell you one story. I know its time is up, but just tell you one looking at this picture. But when I became speaker the first time, and even before then, I was trying to change the look of the Capitol. You know, it's all these white men for all these years. So we had, Helen Keller and Rosa Parks, and we had a lot more other kinds of people representing the statues there. So the day that we were dedicating Sojourner Truth, it was early in the term of Barack Obama. So Michelle Obama came to the dedication. Oh, it was a fabulous dedication at Sojourner. If you don't know about Sojourner Truth, learn about Sojourner Truth. She's just spectacular. Anyway. So when I was speaker and Michelle Obama came, and when she spoke, she said, I can just imagine how happy Sojourner Truth would be to see a woman Speaker of the House. But I just can't imagine what she'd be thinking to see me, Michelle Obama, as the First Lady. I can't say it without crying. I can't say it without breaking up, because it was just, can you just imagine what they thought? Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, President of the United States, a woman Speaker of the House, so different from what their experience was, but all about inclusion and inclusion. So that revitalization is so very important, and I might say that is something that newcomers bring to America as well. So let us be grateful that we are a nation of immigrants as well as a nation of Native Americans. Let's hear it. Let me once again thank the first partner, Jennifer Siebel, for her leadership in so many ways. I mean, she's so organized for children, adorable, wonderful in every way. First partner to the great Gavin Newsom. Are you called first partner too? Whatever. First partner, whatever. But she takes her thinking, she thinks entrepreneurially, she thinks creatively, she thinks artistically. And when I said earlier about the arts being the unifier that bring us together, I go back to the poet Shelley, who said the greatest force for moral good is imagination. Imagination, to be creative and to think in different ways and to put yourself in someone else's shoes. He didn't say all that, I'm adding to it. But that's what our first partner does. She finds a way to communicate, to connect with an idea through the arts. For this and for so many reasons. Thank you so much, Madam Vice.
No, thank you. That was so kind. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi, for helping us to celebrate all the women on whose shoulders we stand and for continuing to inspire us to a brighter and more powerful and magnificent future. You are the leader of all leaders. We love you in California, and we are so grateful to you for your continued thoughtfulness and intelligence and leadership in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much.